Sunny ways, my friends. Sunny ways.
Your 16 seconds are up. I'm going to ask you again because nobody believes you when you say you don't know how much money your family has got from the wheat group. You've had a month to look into that. You knew you were going to testify here. Again, how much money total have your brother, mother, and spouse received from this organization? How much?
That information has been publicly shared. I will highlight.
Well, then tell me what it is.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
We have recently switched to drinking water bottles out of water out of when we have water bottles out of plastic. Away from plastic towards paper, like drink box water bottles, sort of things. Sorry?
The servicing costs on the debt that you're going to have to carry, that you're adding to now, right?
Interest rates are at historic lows, Glenn.
Where's the funds?
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean? Oh, Justin, you're awake. You made it. Have a seat. Have a coffee. You need some. Wakey time.
Let's cut that Disney Plus subscription. So we cut it. It's only $13.99 a month that we're saving, but every little bit helps.
A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but...
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
You must know somebody. Yeah, that's all that's coming off. There's nothing else coming off, yeah. I'm not Justin Trudeau here. Let's fucking go!
Let's fucking go.
Knockout!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. I know it's not Friday Night Fringe. I do need to make a new opener for these special events. Now, I just want to stress that I did not plan to do this live stream. I was sitting around doing my usual Saturday routine of devil worship and gambling and just figured, you know what? Instead of me sitting here cursing at the television while they announce the new NDP leaders, why not jump into a live stream and bring you guys in for the action? Now, the announcement is about to get underway, and I'm going to start streaming that here on the channel. There has been an issue when it comes to sharing the audio here. Not that we need to hear the audio or really take a lot of note into the audio. So I'm going to share the screen over right now. Let me know in the chat if you're getting audio from the screen when we share it over. Hoping to have no issues here. Let's see what we can do here. Share the screen, allow, and there we go. Can you guys hear the music that's going on in the background of this stream? Let me know if you can hear the audio. I'll turn it up a little bit. You're getting audio from the video as well as me on the mic? No audio from the video? Okay, that's okay. We'll mute the video because really we're just here to see the results, right? We don't really care about what they're saying. I'll be dictating what's going on in the results anyways. And that's probably best because we don't want to listen to any of these candidates, do we? We don't want to listen to Sarah or Nenshi or any of these guys. Not that they'll be speaking, but whoever's running the convention, I'll be kind of just narrating and iterating what's coming. Again, I've left this on a smaller screen just because the chat that is going on inside this room is just nasty. In fact, who cares? Let's bring it up. Let's bring it up a little for you guys. I don't know what you can see here, but of course the people are talking about Danielle being in trouble, and then she's changing the name of the party. That is one of the rumors coming around about the NDP leadership is that Naheed Nenshi essentially is going to break away from the NDP party once he becomes leader and kind of form his own deal. Now, is that a surprise to anybody? We know Naheed Nenshi is essentially a Marxist. We know that, I mean, we're going to call a spade here. We know exactly what his intentions are. This guy is going to bury Alberta. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more in the stream as we talk about these leadership results. In fact, let's pull that up while we're waiting here. I want to try and get the map results, because I've been talking about Alberta election live results. I want to go to the map here. When we look at Calgary, Edmonton, of course, is always an orange city. We know that it's going to remain that way. Edmonton has always and will always be a socialist city. They have a lot of union workers in town. There's a lot of social justice community members in there. But as you look at the rest of Alberta, aside from this one section of Banff, most of the province is blue. However, when we get over to Calgary, Calgary is the area I want to focus on because this is where the votes matter. You'll look here that Tyler Shandro lost his Calgary Acadia riding 10,957 votes to 10,964 on the NDP. That's how close it was when Tyler Shandro lost his riding. When we look at Fish Creek, Calgary Fish Creek, again, about a 1,500 vote difference to the NDPs. So Miles McDougall won with 13,757 votes compared to 11,260 on the NDP. Again, they do have numbers in town here. When we look at Calgary Lougheed, 9,600 votes to 6,900 votes on the NDP. Again, these aren't large win margins. Calgary Pagan, 11,800 to 9,000 votes. Now, it's important to remember that Dennis Ram is one of the people listed on this ballot for Calgary Pagan. Dennis Ram, if you remember, we covered the video back on the channel back when this ran. He was the one who laughed in the face of the mother who lost two of her sons during the pandemic and said, well, everybody should get the jibby jab. He stands with that. He thinks it's hilarious that she lost people, yet he still got a significant number of votes. Calgary Hayes, Rick McIver, who's been a long-term MP, seeing 11,800 to roughly 9,000 votes in his section of town. Calgary Southeast, again, 14,000 to 9,300. Again, there's a bigger gap there in Calgary Southeast, but some of these battleground areas, Calgary West being one of them, 12,800 to 9,400 in that area of town. Calgary Bow, 12,940. For Dimitri's Nicolaides, 12,940 to 12,555. This is again where I'm saying there are such thin margins when it comes to Calgary. Essentially, Calgary will be the deciding factor in the next election. Calgary North, you can see here, United Conservative Party, Mohammed Yassin gets 7,915 votes to 7,802. This is a huge issue for Calgary moving forward. And the reason I'm going to point that out is if just one of these major ridings were to slip into the NDP, that would have drastically changed. In fact, Rachel Notley would have won the election at that point, even though the only orange parts of Alberta are down here in Lethbridge, Tabor area, Banff, Kananaskis, Calgary, and Edmonton. This is again where electoral reform, I think, needs to happen, because when you look at the entire province of Alberta, the votes essentially don't matter unless you're in these major cities, these major strongholds when it comes to the election. Now, one of the benefits to doing this stream without the audio, without the yib-yabbering from the NDP party, is I can focus on the chat for once instead of our usual Friday night streams. Let's jump into the chat. Let's see what everybody's got to say. Let's get it going. Monica saying this is the new donut credit party. Yes, Naheed Nenshi. Yeah, I'm not going to throw the lines in there. You guys are doing it for me. DMAC jumping in. Is there anyone normal to pick? Well, it's the NDP. No, of course not. Of course there's nobody normal to pick from. This is what we're going to see. Mystical jumping in. Could Nenshi's leadership have a negative impact on Calgary? This is one of the things that, again, I wanted to stress when we were talking about the the typical voting habits. It's not to say Danielle Smith did not gain support throughout her tenure as premier or will not continue to gain support despite who becomes leader here. But Calgary, you'll remember, kept Naheed Nenshi at the helm for multiple terms, basically for as long as he wanted to run. Now, call it shenanigans, call it the Muslim vote, whatever you want to label it as. And again, there's nothing racist about saying the Muslim vote. When Naheed Nenshi would run in Calgary, the Muslim vote outnumbered the rest of the city. Naheed Nenshi's election was called just by doing one quadrant of the city without even focusing on the other three. Again, this is where I say electoral reform needs to happen. But essentially, he would win his seat without breaking a sweat. So with that kind of support, even though his numbers were tending to drop during the pandemic, of course, his infamous white nationalists were protesting the lockdown measures and they don't deserve to eat comments. He still would have got in. He still would have been mayor if he chose to run. Now, there was rumor circulating at that time that he was panning for a seat with the Liberal cabinet, that he was going to go federal. Of course, he didn't go fed. He wants to destroy Alberta. We're going to see what happens with that as the announcement is moving forward. But where my concerns lie is that when you have the people in Calgary that support Naheed Nenshi in those razor-thin battleground areas, what does that mean for Alberta? Well, if Naheed Nenshi gets in as premier, if you're in Alberta, you should essentially sell your house, pack up, move, get out. And this isn't one of those, well, if Trump becomes president, I'm going to move to Canada things. This man will literally destroy our province. He destroyed Calgary. He's made Calgary a woke paradise. He's completely derailed. I mean, look at the water main break that's going on in Calgary. He neglected to do common maintenance, common inspections on these pipes that were needed to be done. Naheed Nenshi also has a track record of participating with the World Economic Forum. He's been dubbed one of the best young leaders at the time that he entered his race to become mayor of Calgary through the World Economic Forum. And if you're fed up with Justin Trudeau, even if you're watching this from another province in the country, you're going to see something I feel significantly worse should Naheed Nenshi defeat Danielle Smith when it comes time to run for premier in the next provincial election. I've always said on the channel that when you follow municipal, provincial, or federal politics, provincial is the second most important office that affects your day-to-day life next to municipal. Wherever you live under municipal, they'll decide your property taxes, they decide your fees, your services, what you're getting for infrastructure. The province will decide how much they're going to fund those people. And then the province puts in your tax rates for business. They put in your policies for how much they're going to tax you on basic things like fuel, on utilities, on different things. So provincial matters when it comes to job creation in a province, when it comes to advancements or gains for your province. We've seen how much work Scott Moe in Saskatchewan, Danielle Smith has been doing in Alberta to try and right the wrongs of some of the things that were done. Now, Danielle Smith, while I do have questions for some of her decisions, and I do have videos coming later this week talking about those things, I think she's done a relatively good job. We've had her on the channel. She's a wonderful person to talk with, and hopefully we can get her back on the channel shortly after this is announced. I'd love to have her back on sometime to talk about the results, what it means for Alberta, and what it means for her party moving forward. But ultimately, we're talking about the future of Alberta. Rachel Notley completely unraveled a province that was completely out of debt, ran a massive deficit, abandoned Fort Mac when the fires went through, when the wildfires went through, gave them no assistance in terms of what was required. She could have handled it way better. But this is a party that's focused on unions. This is a party that is focused on spending and then taxing the average citizen in order to pay for those things. They do have some okay policies. Like, I'm not going to say the NDP are completely out of whack when it comes to teachers and their pay scales. The NDP typically they typically favor education. They say that they favor healthcare, but they're favoring the people at the top of the healthcare system, not really favoring getting resources or staff into the healthcare system. They want to put more restraints on the healthcare system. Danielle Smith has done the same thing. But what we're seeing from Alberta Health Services is now that Danielle Smith came in and fired Dr. Dina Hinshaw, relieved her of her position. She did multiple good things for the province of Alberta. I truly believe she's getting into that now. Joe Cece's starting off the commentary again. I don't know what's going on with the streaming program I use and why we can't get audio, but again, you can see the subtitles at the bottom, which is good that we have those. In fact, there's 2 subtitles, so I'm going to turn off the main since they're providing them. And we're going to see what happens in this leadership debate. It's going to be interesting because the NDP have actually seen record numbers of memberships since the announcement that Naheed Nenshi was going to run, which could mean one of 2 things. We know guys like Marty up north went and got memberships. There's people that said they were going to vote to get rid of Nenshit, that they didn't want him representing the province. It's going to be interesting if those votes were for Nenshi or if those votes were against. Again, I think it's very likely Naheed Nenshi is going to take the leadership. And if he does, this is going to be an incredibly uphill battle for Danielle Smith, not because of her policy, but you'll notice how much pushback she got when it came to announcing being over the age of 18 for gender-altering drugs or procedures. Anytime Danielle Smith makes a decision that goes against the check boxes or the message, she's ultimately punished by the left-leaning crowds, told that she doesn't care about gender ideology, that she doesn't care about people's rights. Again, she's made some questionable decisions that I'll be discussing later this week. Evelyn chiming in, Notley screwed union workers and gave us a 50% cut back on our pay. Don't kid yourself, they messed up all of our careers and made more people homeless than you would ever believe in oil and gas. Absolutely. No, I'm not kidding. So when I talk about the unions, ultimately everybody knows the huge conflict of interest that came from Rachel Notley and the name that her husband was one of the heads of QP, which is the organization that handles the unions in Alberta. And again, they favor... That's where I'm saying they talk about favoring healthcare, they favor teacher salaries, they favor education. The biggest problem is that the money goes to the top. It doesn't go to where it needs to be spent. It doesn't go to expanding our programs. This is why I've always dubbed this party the SpendDP. They just simply want to spend, and then tax everybody to cover those costs. Xylo chiming in, lame lies and BS will happen in this leadership debate. Obviously it will. Again, this isn't a debate. These are the results. I know Rachel Notley does not want Naheed Nenshi to win this vote simply because he is going to dismantle the NDPs in Alberta. Again, Naheed Nenshi essentially going to take the helm here and go full bore, turning it into like a purple party. He's going to be the purple party eater and essentially rebrand the NDP to run under his vision. They're going to move away from it. Alberta is the rebel against the machine. Long live Alberta, says Rags. I couldn't agree more. Call them tax to death wackos. Yes, absolutely, Carrie. I agree with that. NDP and Liberals are both traitors. Absolutely, fully agree with that. And DMAC saying Danielle's the best. Nobody's perfect. Absolutely. And I've said this before when it comes to politics. There's no decisions you can make that are going to appeal to people 100% of the time. You can't make everybody happy all of the time. What I tend to find in politics, though, is that I do have questions again. And part of the video coming out this week is the question of why was Alison Redford hired to manage a board by Danielle Smith? Alison Redford completely destroyed the conservative dynasty that was going on in Alberta. She completely obliterated the Conservative Party behaving like Justin Trudeau, acting entitled, overspending on travel and expenses, and essentially taxing the citizens. Again, this province was debt-free at one point. She racked up a deficit, and then Rachel Notley completely obliterated that deficit. I have to question Danielle Smith and those decisions. Again, I'm sure there's an explanation, but it doesn't make sense to a lot of voters. That's the problem, that when you do something like this, even if you feel justified, you have to outweigh how much is this decision going to affect my candidacy in the next run? Are people going to understand why I made this decision? Even if they explain it in full. Nobody wants Alison Redford to have anything to do with any form of government. Okay, so we've got some Indigenous language speaking going on. The stream is, I think they've lost their connection because the chat keeps moving over here, but the stream is slowed down. Let me see if I can give us a jump start. Looks like they're having some connection issues. Maybe they should have got some better internet going on in there. I don't know what's happening here. Let's try to refresh the page. There we go. We've caught up. So we'll allow them to keep speaking Indigenous, of course. Let me get to the chat. Let's see what people have to say in the chat. Nothing wrong with questioning leaders. Absolutely. I fully agree. We talked about that on live streams multiple times. Liberals, NDP, all traitors in the Green Party and the Drunk Party under Elizabeth May. Absolutely. Xylo, off topic. Imagine the cup at the Stampede. I would love to see that. In fact, what a comeback Edmonton's had. I couldn't believe it. You're down 3-1, 3-0, and you come back 3-3. I mean, that's a hell of a comeback story. Even if Edmonton loses the next game, what an amazing series. Even YouTube doesn't want to support the NDP. There we go. I don't trust any of those politicians. Solo, you've nailed it on the head, and I've said multiple times you shouldn't. You should never trust any politician. That's like saying you trust a lawyer or you believe everything a lawyer tells you. No, absolutely not. You shouldn't trust any politician. Hold their feet to the fire when it comes time to ask the questions as to why they're doing what they're doing, why their policies are the way that they are, and where they're going to go moving forward. All you can do is have accountability and demand better accountability. Trudeau's a foreign agent destroying our country. Well, tell me something we don't know. It's probably that Randy guy, total mirror sort of thing. There we go. Sandy, welcome into the stream. Floody Boy, and I'm going to show his or her comment because Floody Boy, I'm assuming male, chimes in all the time in my live streams, and I always miss the comments. So here we go. I feel like I will only have faith in the Canadian system if we see Trump this time win fair and square. If Trump wins, Trudeau is in deep Nenshi. Yes, absolutely. I agree. I was actually looking at the polls of the US election. And funny enough, they're saying it's very close. It's almost a tie. It's at like 50 to 49% currently in the polls, which makes zero sense. You know that there's messing around going on there. God, they're still having issues with this this live stream. So membership sales went smoothly and voting went off without a hitch. They're running a political party. Again, this is all the butt sniffing and butt kissing that they do before they announce who's going to be in command, who the leader is going to be. So again, we'll just keep our eyes on the stream. Let's chime in with the chat. Back in the day, we used to make jokes about PDF files. Now our government is a joke, and the leader is one themselves. Yeah. You see what I did there with Nenshi? Yeah. I had to leave. Anybody discuss Ryan Jefferson's Daily Show about Alberta? I don't know anything about the Daily Show in Alberta. What do we got here? Just joined in now, catching up. Thanks for all you do. Hey, no problem. Listen, like I said, I wanted to make sure that if I'm going to be sitting here cursing at my television, then you guys can be included in that process as well. There's there's no point in doing this by ourselves, right, ladies and gentlemen? What is it the NDP always say? The socialists and communists always, the Marxists. We're all in this together, aren't we? Oh. What I'm curious is what's going to happen to the federal NDP party after the next election, the next federal election, because they're poised to lose so many seats. The Liberals are poised to lose so many seats. This Garrett fellow looks like he's made of soy. Yeah. So do you guys ever go to hotel rooms? You'll notice in hotel rooms, and somebody pointed this out to me that I was unaware. Anytime you go into a hotel room, they always have, the bed, your night tables, your nightstands, a little desk, but there's always this one lone chair sitting next to the bed every time you go into a hotel room. Now, call that what you want to. I think everybody knows what I'm getting at, but I think this guy's the guy who sits in those chairs every time he's in the hotel room. Uh, everyone in the NDP is made of soy. Somebody chimed in. It's the chair. It's the chair. I never thought of it that way. And then my good friend Master of Snatch pointed that out once, and I was just like, oh my God, I just always saw it as a chair. Oh, what else? Is CBC broadcasting this NDP? I'm not sure. I know this is the Alberta NDP channel that's broadcasting this. So I simply did a search on YouTube, found that this channel was streaming, and just said, okay, that's the best one to showcase. Of course, they're going to show everything they want to show because, well, they want everybody to know who's going to be corrupt enough to destroy Alberta next. Canadian Girl, I didn't get a notification you were live. Greetings from Airdrie, Alberta. Welcome in, Canadian Girl. Guys, if you're in the stream, make sure to give it a thumbs up then. Every thumbs up helps. It helps push it out in the algorithm. It tells people we're live. It tells people that we're out there. So make sure to hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. And let's see how many people we can get in here watching the possible future death of Alberta. I hate saying that. I hate saying it, but I don't think people have really clung to the idea of what happens if Naheed Nenshi wins this election, this vote. If he becomes the premier, God, I hate saying, I almost want to throw up when I say the premier of Alberta. We're done. That's it. If you think Justin Trudeau broke Canada, he's going to destroy Alberta. The woke nonsense that will come to this province. You think having a computer with a lot of PDF files is a big deal now? Well, we're going to get swarmed with those files. If Naheed Nenshi wins, he's going to bend the rules so that everybody can go out and fling their bits around and make everybody uncomfortable. Nenshi's just as bad as Trudeau. The problem is that JB, he can potentially do more damage than Trudeau does to Albertans than Trudeau does federally if he takes that vote. Again, I think he's going to take the leadership, but if he wins against Danielle Smith, if Sarah Hoffman won this vote, my worries would be at ease. I would not be worried about the next provincial election at all. When they did cutbacks in 2016, we got stuck in the middle of Fort McMurray fires. What do you think actually started the fires? Well, again, I'm not allowed to say on the channel, Evelyn, because that's conspiracy theories, and people don't really like when you talk like that. But look, you can rest assured I know what started those fires, and I know with all the photo ops that took place and all the people murmuring about what was going on, what really went on. Everybody knows what went on. Justin broke Canada with a little help with his friends. Absolutely. Rob Hellfire will be okay as long as we have UCP and for her tenure, Danielle Smith. Again, Rob, one of the things I pointed out that we have to worry about is, again, those thin margins in Calgary. Calgary is going to be the battleground for this election. It is going to determine who the next premier is. If Danielle hasn't gained those votes in these battleground key areas that were razor thin margins, where UCP won their seats, if those people in Calgary still favor Naheed Nenshi and vote for Nenshi, we're screwed. All Danielle would have had to do was lose one or two of those key ridings, and she wouldn't be the premier right now. And I showed at the beginning of the stream, some of those ridings are by a couple of hundred votes. It's close. Again, that's not to say Danielle hasn't made ground or made a believer out of those people who may have voted the NDP. But typically, people who vote NDP stick with it because they huff their own farts. They enjoy watching the world burn, I guess. Here's somebody in an orange jumpsuit getting ready to go to jail because they're probably a government criminal. Isn't it funny that orange is the color of the NDP and that's also the same color they wear in jail? I know, Ruth. There's Ruth in here saying results, please, in their live stream. Yeah, we all want the results. This is the thing that I love is all the fart huffing that goes on. That's why the video stream was supposed to start at 2:00 Alberta time. I wasn't in a huge rush to get the stream started on time because we all knew this is going to be the procedure that goes on with these wackos. Look at them all. Do you notice something in that crowd? As it pans on that crowd, all seniors, mostly older seniors in this crowd. That's the demographic. People who buy into this woke ideologue. And it's not to say anything, like I have a lot, according to YouTube, the majority of my audience are age 45 and above. So it's not to say that all seniors vote NDP. But that boomer generation, like anytime I talk to my father, I feel like I sound like Heath Ledger's Joker. My father was a typically, neutral voter. He would always vote on policy rather than party. But lately, ever since lockdowns, it's like he's just shifted over and believes everything CBC tells him, everything the television tells him. There's no getting through. Now, luckily, being on Acceptable Fringe and being around my father and being an influence to him, I can somewhat try to bring him back over to the light side of the force. And he's starting to see what I'm talking about. But at the same time, I always say people have to make their own decisions. They have to make up their own minds. But it just shocks me how easily manipulated his generation is when it comes to woke ideologies, acceptance, that the social justice issues that essentially bring these people over, that they believe good things are happening with unions. Derek's a Jedi now. Let me tell you, I'm not a Jedi. I'm the Jedi. Use the Force, Luke. It's clearly this party was voted by sand people. Those blaster marks on the wall tell you enough of a story. That's my terrible Obi-Wan. I could have just said hello there. Decoy. If you can load CPAC on YouTube live, we can hear it from there. So here's the problem, Decoy. It's the actual streaming program I'm using that is not giving me audio. It's something to do with the browser. So again, I apologize, but we got the subtitles. Do you guys really want to hear what these guys are saying? Their little fart huffing session? I don't. I don't know about you guys. I know we're just here to essentially see the results. Dawn saying my parents in the UK are the same with the BBC News. It's what's funny is that my old man used to tell me, you can't trust the government. He was the guy that always thought the government was watching, like Big Brother's watching you. And then all of a sudden, it's like the coup happens, and all of a sudden it's okay. Trust the government; they care. They have our best interests at heart. They're telling us the truth with everything. They wouldn't lie to us. And it's just so funny how easily manipulated people were during that times. And I've talked about that when it comes to the water main break in Calgary. How very easily manipulated people are. Going, you don't have facts about this. You don't understand. You're just a tinfoil hat wearing lunatic. You should get out of here. I'm going to call the cops on you if you turn on your water hose. All over again. It's like we didn't learn the first time around just how easily we move back into the brainwashing, hating your neighbors, judging people. Floody Boy, again, turn on the sound. There is no sound. I apologize. I can't get the sound on the stream. Again, guys, we'll be showing the results. Subtitles are on. We'll be taking your chats in here. Kenzie coming in, it continues to amaze me how many people will say one hand, the libs are terrible, yet believe the government. Yeah. Well, and again, people people closer to me that tend to lean that way are the same way. Oh, Trudeau's terrible. But hey, you have to understand that these conservatives aren't doing any better. Well, then what's the answer? What's the answer? I see it all the time. In fact, I was talking to my wife about it this morning because I put out a video this morning talking about Pierre Poilievre's views on immigration. That he finally came out and gave a detailed response as to where he actually stands on immigration. Now, before it has always been, well, we're going to try to accommodate, we're going to try to build based on the amount of people coming in. Yes, he's dropped little subtle hints, but he was very vocal and very straightforward in terms of declaration where he stands on immigration the other day. And a lot of people in the chat, well, I don't trust Pierre Poilievre. I don't trust what he's going to do. You're allowed to believe that way, but here's my answer or my question to those people. What's the answer? You hate Justin Trudeau. You don't trust Pierre Poilievre. Nobody's going to vote for Jagmeet Singh. What's the answer to our problems? Where do we find a solution to our problems? And the common answer I hear is, well, let's have a civil war. We need to go to Ottawa. You first. And that's the biggest problem that I find with the internet is that a lot of people want to throw their opinions out, but when it comes time to actually do something, nobody does anything. Nobody, and you can't argue that. If you look around at every one of these uprisings, the only time I've ever seen somebody doing something was essentially things like the Freedom Convoy, where people actually got off their butts and said, look, we can make a difference. Here we go with a record voting turnout of 72,930 votes. Again, I said at the beginning of the stream, guys like Marty up north went and got memberships. They voted. So again, it makes me question, did people buy these votes simply just to put in their 2 cents and make sure Nenshi doesn't get in? Or is this an overwhelming support for Naheed Nenshi in those votes? We're going to find out when they give us the numbers. Don saying you've got to trust somebody, and PP is better than the trader in power at the moment. Well, that's kind of so. Again, I've talked with Pierre. I've met Pierre. I've had a chat with him person to person. I like him as a person. I do believe that he has the best intentions for Canada. Is he going to do things that please everybody all the time? No, just like Daniel Smith, there's going to be times where he does things that we don't like or we don't, agree with. That's part of politics. People disagree all the time because you can't please everybody. But in terms of a solution to our current problem, being Justin Trudeau, corrupt politics, scandals, what is the solution if not Pierre Poilievre? Oh, here comes the sheriff of Nottingham up on stage. Why is her face always so red? Why does she look like she just got back from like Tahiti and has like the worst sunburn ever? Always. I've always said when you look at the eyes, when you look at Rachel Notley's eyes, she always looks like she just came out of a methadone clinic. I can't, Rachel Notley's just, Yeah. Somebody's saying, why not vote PPC? I'll tell you why, Vince. Essentially, here's the problem. I did vote PPC in the last federal election because I believed in Maxime Bernier. But here's the problem when it comes to the PPC. You're essentially vote splitting, and a lot of people don't like talking about that, but that's the reality. Maxime can't even get his seat. He can't get his seat. How do you vote for a party that can't get a seat? The people in his riding don't even want to vote for him. So how do we move ahead? Again, our current issue. How do we fix our current issue? Max isn't even in that equation. I'm talking about what's available to us between now and 2025. Kenzie hitting it right. Vote with your values. You have to. You have to vote on policy, not the person. Somebody said, congratulations, Nenshi. Sarah Hoffman has 3,063 votes. So to 72,000 votes, Sarah Hoffman came in with 3,000. This tells us who wins. That tells us the winner, not Nenshi. Naheed Nenshi, 62,000 votes. So again, there's the Fat Walrus himself, Mr. Purple, coming up on stage. He knew he was winning this. 62,000. He got 90% of the vote. Possibly more. My math could be off. So if that doesn't scare the shit out of you, and you live in Alberta, that should scare you right now as to how many votes this guy got. Record turnout of members for Naheed Nenshi. As I said at the beginning of the stream, either people bought memberships to make sure he wasn't getting in, or there was overwhelming support for Nenshi. He's out of Calgary. They had a record number of memberships, record number of votes for Naheed Nenshi. Roughly 90% of the vote went to Naheed Nenshi. Alberta is in deep, deep trouble as of now. This degenerate, this pig of a man will completely obliterate our province. This is sad. Doug, dude, I'm a senior and a boomer. There is no way in hell I'd vote for the NDP, Liberal, Green, or any of these woke commie people. Yeah, I get it, Doug. And I'm not saying every boomer in that generation. I'm just saying from what I see is this overcry or this overpouring of that generation that are easily susceptible. So believe me, I'm not roping everybody into that category. You're free to think how you want. I'm out and about all the time. I run into people all the time in Calgary that say, "Hey, I watch your channel. I've seen your video. Thanks for everything you do." I appreciate those things. But whenever I go out, people are always talking politics. I was always told growing up that there's three things you don't talk about: money, religion, and politics. Unfortunately, all three of those things have now become prevalent in our society as a day-to-day discussion simply because of the position we're in our politics. So when everybody's out yakking, even when you sit at a restaurant, when you're out at the grocery store, standing in line waiting to pay for your carbon taxed food, all you hear is people talking about, well, the news said this, I heard that, I don't trust this. It's out there all the time. And the overwhelming claims that I hear of people that support this disgrace are either the younger generation that vote for social justice issues or the older generation that believe what the news tells them. I mean, Scotty, you're not wrong. This guy is one of the largest supporters in Canada of the World Economic Forum, next to Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland. You're telling me that Alberta's next election isn't going to have some kind of trickery or mass shenanigans going on? I beg to differ. I mean, Reg has it here. Would you buy a used car from that guy? No. I would not buy a recycled piece of dog shit from this man. Not that I'd ever be looking for one, but I mean, this guy, it's a fake smile. Yeah. This guy's an absolute scumbag, crooked AF. Yeah. Floody coming in. I can picture Nenshi becoming premier. I pray PP is PM by the time Alberta election rolls around because people need to see the difference. Here's the problem, though, Floody. Even if Pierre's the prime minister, the province has the right to change medications for kids under 18, procedures for kids under 18. They can change your tax rates. They can implement a provincial sales tax, an HST if they want to. They have control over a lot of things that affect your day-to-day lives. And speaking of PST and HST, this is the same guy that rose taxes in Calgary every single year he was mayor, except for election years, except when he needed the vote. So gear up for that. If this guy wins, your taxes are going to significantly increase. If you think your mortgages are expensive now, if you think your utilities are highly costly now, this man, if you can call him a man, is about to completely decimate. Like I want to try and stay as professional as I can here to not come off as like the screaming Trump girl who gets mad when Donald Trump becomes president and goes, no, everywhere. But this is devastating to Alberta, especially the level of support that he got in this leadership vote. Keep in mind, Danielle Smith did not get this many votes, I believe, when she ran for leadership of the UCP, when she was running against, God, I can't even remember some of the people she was running against for that leadership. Vote counts, results of the UCP. Let's see what Danielle Smith got, shall we? Because that's going to play a part. I know that she made it to premier. Danielle Smith had 53% of the votes to Toe's 46.3%. So she was running against Toe's. More than 250 volunteers were helped to count 85,000 ballots. And again, Danielle Smith got, what was it, 53%? So she had roughly 40,000, 45,000 votes from her party to become the leader of the UCP. This guy just got 75,000 votes to become leader of the NDP. Taves, not Toes. Sorry, it was pronounced Toes on the article. So that's CTV's misspelling. So yeah, Danielle Smith only took about 45,000 votes to become leader of the UCP. This guy just took double to become leader of the NDP. I am reading what he's saying. He's villainizing people already. This is the definition of a Marxist. Everyone is against us. In Alberta, we need to fight outsiders all the time. In Alberta, where we should be scared of change instead of embracing the leading the future. That is not Alberta. Alberta is not small. Alberta is not small-minded because we all know it is impossible to think small under, it says under that big. Again, I'm going to put out a video talking about all this, but Danielle Smith and UCP want us to be small. They want us to be small because they think small. They see Alberta as a fortress to be defended, but what Alberta has always been, oh no, is a wide open door with a welcome mat. What does that tell you? Inviting the best people, best ideas from every corner of this earth to live a great Alberta life right. Oh no. Danielle Smith recently said in her way, as she is, she gets carried away and sometimes, and she claimed to be the most, I have to get this quote right, the most freedom-loving politician in Canada. Then laughter ensues. Friends, she hasn't done a blessed thing to protect anybody's freedoms. In fact, what she does is systematically takes them away. Taking away the freedom of our doctors, parents, and kids to choose the best medical treatment for themselves. Here we go, taking away the freedom of landowners to decide what to build on their lands. Taking away the freedom of citizens to choose local representatives to reflect local views. Taking away the freedom of regulators to do their job without political interference and appointing cronies and lobbyists. She's taking away the freedom to disagree with the premier on anything. And she's taking away the freedom for teachers and doctors and nurses to do their jobs without fear, to do the jobs with hope, to do their jobs with adequate funding. She's taking away the freedom for the brilliant researchers of Alberta to do any kind of research that might make her uncomfortable. Again, we're talking about gender ideologies again. I think she misspoke. I think when she said she is the most freedom-loving politician in Canada, she meant to say she is the most power-loving in Canada. I think you've confused her with Justin Trudeau. You whale. You hate-mongering whale. Albertans have shown over and over and over again. We have shown that we are better than our premier. That we are then her government. We are better. And this is extraordinary. Romans, we have created together. This is an example of what is possible when we stop thinking small and start dreaming big. Again, look at the age of the people in the crowd. If you've ever heard me speak before, you know one word in Sanskrit I talk about all the time. The word means service. It means selfless. Okay, now he's virtue signaling again. Let's cut out of that. Let's just cut it. We've seen the results. Let's cut out of it. Let's get to the chat. Let's hear what everybody's. He's just going to sit there and bash Danielle Smith and talk about how essentially what he's going to do. If you think Danielle Smith has done a good job in Alberta, essentially what's happening here is Nenshi is going to undo and then flip any policy Danielle Smith has put in place on its head and completely decimate this province. If you live in Alberta, if you haven't voted before, if you're one of those people that says, my vote doesn't matter for anything, well, wake up. This is when your vote is going to matter the most in the next provincial election. Sadly, it's only the smaller cities, GP, Lloyd, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, that make the votes work on our side. I'm telling you right now, the battleground is going to be Calgary. You can quote me on that. Calgary is in for a rough time in that election. Nenshi won't win over the rural vote. The problem, it's not. Let's go to it again. Let's. What is it? What is it? Forget it. We'll do it live. Let's go to that map again. I want to pull up that map. Okay, let's go over the results of the last election. Because this is important. This is why we have to talk statistically what this means moving ahead for Alberta. Here's what happened in the last election. 49 seats were elected for the UCP, 38 for the NDP. They needed 44 for a majority, meaning the NDP needed another, 6 seats in order to win. When you look at the rural vote, look at Alberta, it's blue. It's blue, but then you see Edmonton, which is all the fart huffers. No offense to anybody living in Edmonton. And then you see Banff, Kananaskis over here being the only orange part. Down here, Tabor, Warner, Lethbridge, and then Calgary. Look how much of Calgary has turned orange. I can already tell you right now, the reason it's so orange is because of all the people moving here from British Columbia, all the people moving here from Ontario that bring those woke ideologies with them. It has really caused a mass disruption to Calgary's and Alberta's views on conservatism. But when you look at these ridings, Calgary Bow, 12,940 votes for the UCP to Drew Farrell's 12,555. There is less than a 400 vote difference in this riding. And that is a major, major riding. Calgary Northwest, 11,926 votes for Rajan Sawani. So 11,926 compared to 11,777. That's less than 200 votes for that seat. That's how razor thin these ridings are. Calgary Cross, 7,534 to 7,016. Again, even Tyler Shandro's riding, we showed that one earlier, Calgary Acadia. Tyler Shandro, Minister of Justice, lost 10,957 to 10,964. He lost by 7 votes. This is everybody should be worried. Look how orange Calgary is. And these were all the people that voted in Naheed Nenshi, including these blue areas. They supported Naheed Nenshi as mayor. So whatever rhetoric he wants to spew, whatever he comes out and says, there are diehard Nenshi supporters in these ridings. Calgary is going to be the battleground for the next Alberta provincial election. I seen it right here. Chad saying, I'm shocked that Bragg Creek went orange. Again, a lot of people living in that area have moved here from British Columbia. If you look at British Columbia statistics, and I've covered them in other videos, over 60% of the people that moved out of British Columbia in terms of a province moved to Calgary last year. Not just Alberta, they moved to Calgary. British Columbia typically votes NDP. We're in trouble. I don't like fear-mongering. I don't like coming across like, hey, I'm ringing the bell, everybody panic, the sky's falling. Look at the statistics. Look at the votes that Nenshi just got to become the leader of the NDP versus Danielle Smith that got half of those votes to become leader of the UCP. There is an overwhelming support for Naheed Nenshi. And I'm willing to bet that a very large number of those record memberships were purchased in Calgary. I'll be going door to door and my boots will be in the ground next provincial election. Rob, I appreciate that. I'm glad. If Banff is NDP, again, part of the reason Banff is NDP, it's not the policy. It's not the policy. It's the diehards that are moving here from other provinces that are influencing our election. This is where I say immigration is a big problem. When you open the doors and bring people in and give them the rights to vote, they bring the policy with them that, hey, these are the people who gave me my citizenship. These are the people who brought me into the country and gave me the ability to move to Canada. I'll just vote for them. They don't know anything about our politics. Or you get people that are diehard leftists that move from places like British Columbia, Ontario, Quebec, where they go, yeah, we'll vote for the NDP because there's no liberal candidates in Alberta. Alberta can't handle liberal candidates. So they vote NDP. This is a big, big, big problem. I know I keep saying that. Purple Prince rigged it. It's not that he rigged it. And you can count it however you want to. I said the same thing at the beginning of the stream. If you want to say it's racist, call me a racist. But the north end of Calgary is vastly Muslim. And when Nenshi was the mayor of Calgary, he had the Muslim vote. They called the elections just by taking that one quadrant of the North City every single election. They didn't even need the votes of the Southwest, the Southeast, or the Northwest. The Northeast section of town outnumbered everybody per capita. Nenshi won his spot every single time. I guarantee you, when you look at a record number of NDP memberships, when you look at the record number of votes, Nenshi just took 90% of the vote for leader. Those came from those same people in Calgary. It's a landslide victory for him. That's why he ran for the NDP. It's a shoo-in for him. He knows how critical Calgary is to that riding. That's why he joined the party. That's why he ran for leadership, because he knows that he's got a cakewalk when it comes to becoming premier of this province if Calgary is the only thing standing in his way. That's just reality. They move them in and then they vote you out. It happened in Edmonton over the years. Yeah, absolutely. Well, look at Sohi running Edmonton. I know, look, my wife and I talked about the run for mayor in Calgary. I can tell you right now, this pushes things back. If there's this much NDP support, what about Calgary? We talked about what's our plan if that doesn't go through. What's the plan if we lose the mayoral run? My wife wanted to move to Spruce Grove. She wanted to get out of Calgary. She wanted smaller town life. I don't even know if we can move to Spruce Grove at this point. Where do you move? Because if you sell your home and move to a small town and buy a house and Naheed Nenshi gets in and completely decimates your home values, he decimates the province, he overtaxes everybody so that they leave, there goes all your investments. There goes your future. How many events have I attended? Quite a few. Quite a few. I've pushed my platform plenty. I'm very active in the city of Calgary. I can tell you that. It's the problem isn't a platform at this point. You're not, that's what I'm trying to get everybody to understand, is that you're not fighting a platform. You're not fighting policy. You're fighting everybody's favorite team at this point. These people that vote for the NDP, the Liberals, even there are people who vote for the Conservatives that have the same mindset, that it doesn't matter what their policies are. They're voting with them because they stand with them. That's their team. It's, how do you say this without being difficult or finding the easiest way to say it? You're going up against people that will vote for that party no matter what. You could offer them $1 million and they'll still say, nah, I don't like your policies, or I don't like what you're saying about this group of people, or what you're going to do down the line. I'm just not going to vote. I'm not going to vote for you. I'm not going to vote for your party. It's going to be the same thing with Danielle Smith. Naheed Nenshi is going to weaponize what Danielle just did in restricting access for children to obtain gender altering surgeries. He's going to villainize Danielle Smith. They're busing them into small communities in order to get the rural vote. All planned. We saw it with Jody Gondek in the last civic election. She's installed. Kevin Farkas, or sorry, I always say Kevin Farkas. I knew a Kevin Farkas. Jeremy Farkas was in the lead. He was going to be the next mayor of Calgary. It was a shoo-in. And all of a sudden at the 11th hour, Jody Gondek gets a bunch of funding from questionable sources, and people are bussed in, and guess what? She wins with 175,000 votes in a city of 2 million people. DMAC, I'd rather have Wob New than the Purple Prince. Yeah, I would too. This is so important for your audience. Did you see the CBC article today titled South Asian Newcomers to Canada Say Online Hate is Taking a Toll? Absolutely, I've seen it. And again, despite everybody's opinions of the CBC and things like that, I do look at their stuff simply so that I know what to talk about on the channel. They're ramping it up. It all intertwines. When you talk about Justin Trudeau and his hate speech, when you talk about what's happening with Ezra Levant right now, talking about Palestinians, that he might be arrested for hate speech for running a van. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, let me pull it up really quick. I don't know how much everybody follows like Rebel or things like that. Let me pull this up because it's important. There's a huge double standard when it comes to Canada. Now, forgive my Twitter feed, my bookmark section, because usually I'll bookmark things I want to talk about on future videos so that I don't forget them. So we're gonna have to scroll through a few things. Again, I should have had this ready to go, but I didn't think we were going to talk about this. I do have a video coming out about this, but I think it's important to get the point across about that CBC article. Kirk Lubinov tweeting out, do you think the messaging on this truck is a hate crime / hate speech? If so, why? How is anything worse than the pro-Hamas terrorist flag waivers have been doing and chanting in the past 6 months? Again, you look at this truck that Ezra Levant put in. Of course, we've seen this truck that Rebel uses before with the screens. It says, is this Iraq? Is this Hamas? Is this our future? And of course, he's showing all the prayers. No, this is Canada. Again, saying that some control has to come when it involves the protest, the invasion that's coming to Canada. It says, wake up, Canada. You're under siege. Now, that's freedom of expression. That's freedom of speech. And of course, you have Olivia Chow, Chinese installed mayor, coming out in Toronto saying, I condemn this. I think the police should investigate it. I think we should see charges. I think Ezra Levant should be charged. Ezra Levant came out against one of the people who pushed this out that said they were offering a $25,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest or charges against the individuals responsible for that van, saying that, oh, it's against our religion, it's against Hamas, it's against all these things. And Ezra came out and said, I own the truck, it's my truck. Come and get me and give me my $25,000. Now, what's funny is Vitamin D tweeting out, how can there be such a double standard? I don't want any hatred in this country. Take it and leave. Again, Toronto police are investigating a truck in Toronto that explained the issue of radical Islam for hate crimes, but ignore a truck in Toronto that promoted hatred against the Jewish community. So again, similar truck roaming around. This was months ago. And up until recent, I believe, talking about get away from the Jewish community. I don't see Olivia Chow condemning them. I don't see anybody saying, oh, we don't have a place for that in our society. We don't have any approval of what's going on. Like, we don't approve of what's going on. We don't agree with it. We condemn it. No, they only want to condemn one side of the argument. And that's the problem you're going to see with the NDP moving forward, even in Alberta, is it's okay for us to be venomous. It's okay for us to be toxic. It's okay for us to slam others and talk about what works for us, because all that matters is us, not everybody. You either check all the boxes and join us, or you're against us. You share our opinions, or you're wrong. And if you want to give your opinion, we're just going to be as loud as possible until you shut up and hear what we have to say. That's the way these governments are behaving. When they talk about the intolerance that goes towards people and saying by being divisive, saying, oh, you don't agree with trans, you don't agree with all these gender ideologies, you don't agree with all this stuff because you want to prohibit medications to children. Pierre Poilievre said it best. You want to give this stuff to children? Of course I'm going to disagree with it. Well, then you're wrong. You're a bigot. You're a fascist. You're blah, 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 blah. But if I get on your side where you're calling me all those things, that's okay. We had a story on the channel talking about Pride Month this month. and a bar in a place called Eagle, Idaho, just south of Alberta, where they were celebrating Hetero Awareness Month as a pun against Pride Month, saying that they were giving a free beer every Wednesday to anybody who came in dressed as a hetero male, that they were giving discounts on Thursdays to couples that were straight that came into the bar. Like, they were doing it as a joke. And good on them. But all of a sudden they got review bombed by people in the LGBTQ community and people, vendors refusing to bring them their product. You go, oh, you're bigot, you're hatred, you're all this and that. Why is it okay for Pride to say we get an entire month? But any other group that says, well, we're going to appreciate our side of the fence, you're told, well, you're wrong. Isn't that the same thing you're complaining about with Pride, is that people judge you, that people don't accept you, that they don't accept your views? But if anybody has a different view, it just makes them wrong. You're what you're claiming to hate. It's hypocrisy. And we're going to see a mass amount of hypocrisy coming forward in our federal elections, our provincial elections, and our municipal elections. I don't know what else to say, guys. Like, we're in trouble. All humans are racist one way or another. The problem with the term racism is that it's been so overshot as to what it actually defines. It's lost all meaning. Like, during the lockdowns, if you would have said, I'm against the jibby jab, people would say, well, you're a racist. What does a medical procedure have to do with race? What does it have to do with race? It's just they throw that word out now all the time. People say, I don't like immigrants coming to my country. Oh, you're a racist. No, I don't like immigrants coming to the country because we don't have homes for them. We don't have jobs for them. We don't have money for ourselves. Things are unattainable right now. We need to handle those problems before we take immigrants. Well, if you don't want to welcome them into your backyard, then you're a racist. Didn't say anything about their skin color. I didn't say I hate these people because of the color of their skin. I was talking about common economics. I was talking about basic economics. It's just insane. Racism, like terrorism or human rights, just talking points to have lost all meaning. Absolutely. And that is the big problem, is that it's lost its meaning. If somebody calls me a racist now, like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, if somebody said, dude, you're a racist, I'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, no. I go outside the other day, I'm wearing an unacceptable fringe shirt, and they go, oh, you're a free dumber. You're racist. Sorry? I didn't even say a word. I was wearing a shirt. I was wearing my brand. Only because I have a lot of it, and I was out running some errands and just threw on whatever I had. But the point is it's like, you're judging, you don't even know me. You make a claim like that? Justin Trudeau's talking about hate speech. What is that? What's that? You're labeling me a racist. That's you're defaming me. That's slander. That's hate speech, as far as I'm concerned. So why is it that the rules only apply to those who agree in the masses? That's what we have to tackle. And yeah, Kinsey saying, now I say, okay, I'm racist. So what? I mean, yeah. Yeah. What is mystical here? Nenshi, Trudeau, and they're like, are all obvious on how they can get accelerating the complete social collapse of this country. Yes. Guys, we're not going to draw it out anymore. We've been going for over an hour. I'm going to wrap it up. Again, we could talk about this all day until the cows come home. I'm very grateful for everybody who came out to the stream. Again, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment. Always happy to live stream these kind of events. I'm sorry again for the audio. If you're in Alberta, talk to your fellow man, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to whoever. The time to vote is at hand. The time to realize just what your vote counts for. And people always say it to me in the comment sections. They always say it during the live stream. We're not going to vote our way out of this problem. We're not going to vote our way out of this mess. Our votes don't mean anything. It doesn't do anything. This is that one time where I beg to differ. Again, you saw those razor thin margins in those Calgary ridings. You're telling me another 100 or 200 or another 1,000 votes wouldn't have sent a message for the UCP to say that, hey, the NDP aren't welcome here? I know people that say, well, this person's going to win anyways. I don't see the point in voting. Add to the total. When you look at Tyler Shandro losing his riding by 7 votes, every vote counts. If 2 more households went out and voted for Tyler Shandro, he would have kept his job. I'm not agreeing with Tyler Shandro. I think we needed to hold him responsible for his actions during the pandemic as well, under Jason Kenney, or as I call him, Fat Stalin. But my point is that when it's that close, when it's that razor thin, yes, the votes matter. And it's time as Canadians we do our due diligence as citizens and say, look, we've been given the ability to vote. There are people who migrate to this country. There are foreigners who come here that wish they had the ability to vote. They would give anything to give their woke 2 cents in at the polls. We have to start using our power at the polls. We have to start using our obligation as citizens to go and have our voice heard, whether you want to admit it or not. Federally, yes, I agree. There's a bit of a disdain when it comes to the fact that a small pocket of Quebec and Ontario decide who the next prime minister of this country is going to be. But you're still voting for your representatives. You're still voting and giving yourself a chance to voice who you want, making the policies that affect your life. We need to uphold ourselves to the same standards we ask of our representatives. And that's by doing our due diligence, by being accountable, and by serving our country in any way we can, even if our X on a piece of paper is what determines the future of our destination as a province, as a city, as a country. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to report what happened today. I'm sorry that Nenshi's now in control. Going to be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years. The rhetoric that's going to go back and forth. And again, the polls are going to be very, very interesting to watch. Hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Again, have yourselves a great weekend. I get 2 live streams in a row. Kind of weird, but hey, we'll do them here for as long as people want to come and watch. We almost have 500 people in on this live stream. So again, thank you to everybody who came and watched. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Again, if you're in Alberta, if you're in Calgary, now's the time to start talking to your neighbors. Start talking about how important this next election is going to be. And I'll be here to talk to you guys about everything that's happening as this moves forward. Again, look after yourselves. Enjoy some of the heat outside. If you're in Calgary, don't turn on your taps because that's deadly. Kenzie with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much for your next event. For a burger, no, Kenzie. So anytime I get super chats, anytime we get super chats, Kinsey with 2 super chats of $5. Thank you. I always put those into a donation pool. So last night with our super chats, I'm going to be putting that towards the food bank. So we'll buy somebody in Calgary a burger that can't afford to get a burger. And that'll be going in there. So thank you so much for those super chats. I really appreciate that, guys. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the weather. Look after each other and take care.